That's what she said. Her voice didn't rise above a whisper, but it pressed against me harder than any shout could. I should have laughed. I should have told her she was being dramatic. But instead, I stood there, watching the way her hand hovered over the edge of the kitchen counter, knuckles pale from how tightly she held on, as if the granite itself might keep her steady. Her name is Elena, 46, though she always flinches when someone asks. I never asked. I just knew. And me? 27, restless, and stupid enough to linger in places I shouldn't. Like this kitchen, at 11 at night, with the lights dimmed low, the air thick with something I couldn't name but didn't want to lose. It started innocent, or at least it looked that way from the outside. I was helping her fix a broken step on the porch. Her neighbor, who also happens to be my aunt, introduced us, probably assuming nothing would come of it. Elena was just the woman next door. But the first time she thanked me, brushing hair from her face with a hand that shook ever so slightly, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Now, weeks later, I'd found excuses to come by. A light bulb too high for her to reach. Groceries she didn't want to carry. A chair that needed tightening. All trivial. All justifications. And she let me. Maybe out of politeness. Maybe out of something she wouldn't admit. Tonight, though, was different. We had been drinking tea at her kitchen table. Her mug went cold before she touched it again. She asked me about my plans, where I saw myself in 5 years. I shrugged, made some joke about not having the faintest idea. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hers carried a weight that mine couldn't. That was when she stood, walked to the counter, and drew that invisible line with her words. If you cross this line, there's no going back. Her back was to me, but I saw the curve of her shoulders. Tight, almost defensive. She wasn't asking me to stop. She was daring me not to. Or maybe daring herself. I rose slowly, chair scraping against the tile louder than I meant. My legs carried me forward before my head had caught up. And for a moment, everything felt suspended. The hum of the refrigerator, the rain tapping faintly against the window, even my own heartbeat. I wanted to say something clever, but all that came out was raw, unpolished truth. Then watch me cross it. Her head tilted, just enough for me to see her profile. She didn't move, didn't breathe, but her fingers released the counter at last. They trembled, barely, as if they wanted to reach, but didn't dare. The space between us wasn't wide. 2 steps, maybe 3. But it carried the weight of decades, her past, my inexperience, the world's judgment pressed tight like a wall. Crossing it meant more than leaning in. It meant choosing her, despite the gap in years, despite the whispers that would come. I took the first step. Her lips parted slightly, though no words came. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't frowning either. Just waiting. And in that waiting, I realized she wanted me to decide for both of us. Another step. Close enough now to notice the faint scent of chamomile on her skin, or maybe the tea. Close enough to see the small scar near her temple, one I hadn't noticed before. I almost reached out. Almost. And then, her phone lit up on the counter, vibrating hard against the granite. The sudden sound made us both flinch. Her eyes darted to the screen, then away just as quickly. But I saw it. A name. A man's name. Her hand hovered, torn. Mine clenched, just as torn. The line between us had never felt sharper. The phone buzzed again, and Elena's hand froze above it. She didn't answer. She didn't even look a second time. Just pressed her palm flat against the counter until the vibration stopped. Silence filled the kitchen. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that makes your chest feel tight, like you're supposed to speak but can't find the right words. I thought of asking who it was. I didn't. Instead, I leaned against the opposite counter, pretending to study the faint water rings on the wood. "Your tea's cold," she murmured finally, voice low, almost like she was apologizing for something else entirely. I wanted to tell her I didn't care, that I wasn't here for tea, but the words caught in my throat. Elena turned then, resting against the counter as if she needed the support. In the soft light, her face looked younger than 46 and older than 46 all at once, timeless in a way that made me ache. "You're too young for this," she said. I almost laughed. Too young for tea. Her lips twitched, but no smile came. Too young for me. That should have ended it. She wanted it to end there. I could see it in the way she crossed her arms, trying to fold herself shut. But I didn't move. I couldn't. I thought back to what my aunt once told me years ago about Elena, that her husband left when their daughter was in middle school, that she never dated much after. Keeps to herself, my aunt had said. Always polite. But she doesn't let anyone close. I looked at her now and realized how true that was. Every inch of her body spoke of someone ready to push me away before I got too close. Maybe, I said softly, but it doesn't feel that way. Her eyes flicked up, sharp, defensive. You think you know me? No, I admitted. But I want to. The words slipped out before I could catch them. Honest. Reckless. The way I always was around her. She exhaled, shaking her head. You don't know what you're asking. I'm your aunt's friend. I've known you since you were a teenager. People would. She stopped herself, pressing her lips together. People would talk. That's what she meant. Age gap. History. The whispers. But none of that mattered to me in the moment. I stepped closer, slow, careful, like approaching something fragile. She didn't retreat this time. Her eyes searched mine, waiting for me to flinch, to realize she was right and walk away. I didn't. You're looking at me like I'm a mistake waiting to happen, I said quietly. Her throat worked, but she didn't answer. Instead, her hand shifted, just slightly, brushing against the edge of the counter. My fingers were close enough to graze hers if I reached. I did. Not fully, not boldly. Just the lightest touch, fingertip to fingertip. A spark, faint but undeniable. She didn't pull back. Her eyes softened then, not quite surrender, but not resistance either. And in that silence, with nothing spoken, we both knew we had stepped further across that line than either of us meant to. Her fingers didn't move when mine brushed them. Not closer, not away. Just still. Like she was daring me to go further and praying I wouldn't. And then, 3 sharp knocks at the front door. Elena flinched as though struck, yanking her hand back like fire had touched it. The sound echoed through the quiet house, too loud for this late hour. Who? I started, but she cut me off with a look. Don't, she whispered. Her eyes darted toward the hallway, then back to me. Fear? No. Worry. The kind you only carry when you've been caught before. The knocks came again. Louder this time. Elena. A man's voice, low but firm. Older. Familiar, somehow. She froze, every muscle tightening. My chest tightened with something I didn't want to name. Husband? Ex. The name on her phone? She swallowed hard, motioned for me to stay quiet, then slipped past me toward the door. I stood rooted in the kitchen, pulse hammering, listening. The lock clicked. Hinges creaked. Mark, she said, her voice steadier than I expected. It's late. Mark. I edged closer to the kitchen doorway, careful not to be seen. I was in the neighborhood, the man said, his tone too casual, too practiced. Thought I'd stop by. Haven't heard from you in weeks. Her reply came quick, a little too quick. That's because I asked for space. Silence stretched. Then his voice dropped lower, sharp. You don't get to decide that. My fists curled before I realized it. Elena cleared her throat. Mark, it's almost midnight. You should go. Something in his laugh made my skin crawl. Still stubborn. God, I missed that. I couldn't stay back. I stepped into the hall, slow, deliberate, until he came into view. Broad-shouldered, graying at the temples, dressed too neatly for someone just passing by. His eyes slid past her and landed on me. For a moment, the air turned solid. And who's this? He asked, smile tight. Elena stiffened. A friend. He was helping me with the porch earlier. Mark's gaze lingered on me, weighing, measuring. He smirked. Looks a little young for midnight porch repairs. Heat shot up my neck, but I held his stare. Didn't say a word. Elena stepped between us, subtle but protective. Mark, please, go. His jaw flexed. But after a long beat, he raised both hands as if surrendering. Fine. Have it your way. He leaned in, close enough for her to flinch. For now. Then he left, the door shutting harder than it needed to. The silence that followed was worse than his presence. Elena turned slowly, back pressed against the door, breathing shallow. I wanted to ask, who is he really? Ex? Something more? But the words caught in my throat when I saw her eyes glisten. I stepped closer. She didn't move away. My hand almost lifted, almost touched her cheek, but I stopped just short. We stood there, inches apart, the echo of his voice still in the air. Her whisper broke first. You should go too. But she didn't open the door. She didn't move. Neither did I. She stayed against the door, arms folded tight across her chest, like she could still feel the weight of him on the other side. I could still hear his voice too, sharp, invasive, echoing in the quiet hallway. You didn't tell me. I said before I could stop myself. Her head jerked up. Tell you what. That he was still in your life. My voice came out harder than I meant, more accusation than question. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, then pushed off the door. Mark is complicated. That wasn't complicated. That was him walking in like he owns the place. Her eyes snapped to mine, fire behind them. You don't know him. Then tell me. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, jaw tightening. I waited. The silence stretched so long I almost gave up. Finally, she said, he's my ex-husband. He doesn't know how to stay gone. The words hit harder than I expected. Ex-husband. Still hovering, still calling, still showing up at midnight. And me, standing here like some kid, too young to mean anything. I laughed under my breath, sharp, bitter. So I'm just another mistake, right? Another thing you'll regret. Her face faltered. Don't do that. Do what? Make this about you. You don't understand what I'm risking. I stepped closer, heat rising in my chest. Then explain it to me. Because all I see is you letting him walk in here like he still has a claim on you. While you... I stopped myself, words tangling. While I what? She pressed. My throat tightened. While you look at me like you want something you won't let yourself touch. Her breath caught. For once, she didn't have a quick retort. Her lips parted, then closed again. Her eyes dropped to the space between us, to the inches of air we hadn't dared cross. The silence crackled. Elena, my voice softened without meaning to. I don't care how complicated it is. I don't care what people say, or the years between us. Stop. She cut me off, sharp, trembling. Don't say it. Why not? Because if you do, I can't take it back. Her hands clenched at her sides, knuckles white. And I've lived long enough with regrets I can't erase. I wanted to shout. I wanted to shake her, to make her see that I wasn't just some passing phase. But instead, I reached out, finally, fully, and touched her hand. Not tentative this time. Firm. Certain. Her eyes met mine. Wide. Vulnerable. Tell me to leave, I whispered. She didn't. The only sound was her breath, unsteady, breaking in the quiet. I leaned closer, just enough for my forehead to nearly brush hers. My pulse thundered in my ears. Elena, her lips parted. Her eyes closed. And then, a knock at the window. Sharp. Jarring. We both jolted, turning toward the sound. Her daughter's face, pale in the glow of the porch light, staring in from outside. Elena's daughter didn't move at first, just stared in through the glass, eyes wide, frozen. My chest dropped like stone. Elena, I whispered. But she was already moving. She crossed the room fast, pulling the curtain closed in one sharp sweep. Her daughter's muffled voice came from the porch. Mom? The word cut through me harder than Mark's midnight intrusion ever could. Elena turned, back pressed against the curtain, breathing uneven. You need to go. What? Out the back. Now. She saw us. I said, voice cracking between anger and panic. What difference does it make if I walk out the back door now? Please, she hissed. Her eyes were glassy, frantic, not with desire this time but fear. I can't. She can't. The front door rattled before she finished. Mom, open up. Her voice was steady, sharper now, older than I remembered. Elena closed her eyes like the sound of it physically hurt. I'd seen her guarded, sarcastic, even tender. But this was raw terror. Elena, I said softly, stepping closer. She deserves the truth. Her eyes snapped open. No, not like this. The knob twisted. The door pushed halfway open before Elena yanked it shut with her whole body. Just a second, honey, she called, voice almost breaking. I couldn't breathe. My mind spun. Her daughter was only a few years younger than me. She was supposed to be off at college. I'd seen her photo on the fridge once, smiling with a group of friends. This was the risk I hadn't thought through. Not just whispers from neighbors or an ex-husband lurking. It was her child, the one person Elena couldn't lie to without breaking something deeper. Elena, I said again, lower this time. What are we doing? She turned, and for the first time, I saw her mask completely gone. I don't know. Her voice cracked, and something inside me cracked with it. Then let me be honest for both of us. Her lips parted, but before she could answer, her daughter's voice cut in again, sharper. Mom, who's in there? Elena's eyes darted to mine, wide with panic. And in that split second, I understood she hadn't told her daughter anything. Not about Mark still circling. Not about me. Nothing. The curtain shifted, a shadow moving on the other side. She was trying to peek in again. Elena, go, she whispered fiercely, pushing at my chest now, desperation burning in her touch. If she sees you here, she'll never forgive me. I stared at her, at the tremble in her jaw, the tears threatening her eyes. For weeks I'd convinced myself I was the risk. But in this moment, it was clear, she was the one with everything to lose. Her daughter's voice, harder now. Mom, open the door. Now. Elena's hands stayed pressed against me, not pushing anymore, just holding, like she wanted to pull me close and shove me away at once. And then, almost broken, please. If you care about me, go. Her hands were still pressed against me when the door rattled again. Mom. Her daughter's voice came, sharper now, demanding. Who's in there? Every part of me screamed to stay, to face it with her, to not be another secret Elena had to bury. But her eyes, wet, pleading, held me frozen. If you care about me, she whispered again, voice raw. I shook my head, my chest tight. No. If I care about you, I don't run out the back like some shame you're trying to hide. Her breath caught. She tried to look away, but I held her gaze. Elena, you told me if I crossed that line, there was no going back. Well, I crossed it. I can't undo that. And neither can you. The doorknob twisted again. Her daughter's shadow stretched across the curtain. I reached up, gently, and touched Elena's face. She flinched, but she didn't pull away. Her skin was warm beneath my hand, trembling like the rest of her. I'm not sorry, I whispered. Not for any of it. Her eyes closed, and the tears finally slipped free. When she opened them again, there was something different there. Not resistance, not surrender, but recognition. Like for the first time she was allowing herself to be seen. The knock came again, harder this time. Elena inhaled, shaky, then reached for the handle. She didn't tell me to hide. She didn't tell me to run. She just whispered, stay behind me. The door swung open, and there she was, her daughter, wide-eyed, scanning the space. Her gaze landed on me instantly. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Who is he? She asked. Elena stiffened. She glanced at me once before answering. A friend. Her daughter's eyebrows shot up. A friend? At midnight. Mom. Her voice carried the edge of accusation, but beneath it, hurt. The kind that came from being left out of a truth too important to ignore. I stepped forward then, against Elena's instinct, against every warning sign flashing in my head. I shouldn't be here, I admitted. But I am. Because your mom, she matters to me. Elena's breath hitched, and I knew I'd crossed another line, one we couldn't step back from. Her daughter looked between us, disbelief flickering into something softer, though still wary. He's what? Half your age. Elena's chin lifted, just slightly. A defense. He's not a child. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't approval. But it was the first time she hadn't hidden me. The three of us stood in that doorway, silence pulling taut like a wire ready to snap. Finally, her daughter muttered, I need air, and walked off the porch, leaving the door wide open behind her. Elena leaned against the frame, shaking. I touched her arm lightly. We'll figure it out, I said. She looked at me, tired, scared, but with a flicker of something real. Or we'll fall apart trying. Maybe, I said, but at least not alone. Her hand found mine then, hesitant, but it stayed. And in that froth the porch light burned late into the night, long after her daughter had stormed off. Elena and I sat at the kitchen table again, the same mugs from hours before still sitting there, tea long since gone cold. Neither of us touched them. Her hands were clasped tight in front of her, knuckles pale, like she was holding herself together piece by piece. I didn't try to force words out of her. I'd learned by now. Elena never said things until she was ready. Finally, she sighed, and the sound seemed to collapse years off her shoulders. I swore I'd never do this again, she said softly. Do what? Let someone in. Risk my daughter looking at me the way she just did. Her eyes flicked up, glassy but steady. But then you kept showing up. And I kept letting you. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, searching her face. Do you regret it? She hesitated. The pause stretched long, heavy. But then she shook her head. No, that's the problem. The quiet that followed wasn't sharp anymore. It was softer, the kind you could lean into. I thought of Mark, of the way he said for now. I thought of her daughter's face, hurt and betrayed in the doorway. I thought of the world outside this kitchen, ready to tear us apart piece by piece. But sitting there with her, none of it seemed heavier than the weight of her hand when it finally reached across the table and found mine. Her voice was a whisper. I don't know how this ends. I squeezed her hand gently. Then maybe we just let it begin. Her lips curved then, small, tired, but real. A smile that felt like a crack of sunlight after a storm. We didn't kiss. We didn't make promises we couldn't keep. We just sat there, hand in hand, as the house grew quieter around us. It wasn't the perfect beginning or a clean ending. It was messy, unfinished, human. And maybe that was enough. Later, when I finally stood to leave, she walked me to the door. The same door where everything nearly shattered just hours before. I turned, wanting to say something to hold on to her with, something that would make the night feel less fragile. But Elena beat me to it. Come back tomorrow, she said simply. And that was all. I nodded. Tomorrow. When the door clicked shut behind me, the night air felt different. Not safe, not certain, but alive. And that's how it ends. Not with a grand declaration, but with two people holding on to something fragile and daring it to last. Speech Balloon, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Guile, imperfect grip, we knew there was no going back.